What up, Facebook? Happy Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. It is Wednesday. Hope everyone's doing well and hanging in there. I'll wait a few minutes for some of you to jump on here. I don't like this lighting. It's kind of weird. Musical chairs. Hope everyone is having a good week so far, hanging in there, kind of getting back into the swing of things. I know I am. I was expressing a little bit the other day, kind of the challenges sometimes of, we kind of have these really good days where we're up here and feeling productive, and then we kind of sink down into that slump for a couple days, and then what it's like trying to get back out of that slump, the valleys and the peaks and everything. So, but yeah, coming out of that, feeling more productive. So I hope that you guys are also hanging in there, doing the best that you can every single day. And just remembering that, being, my best today doesn't look like what it was yesterday, and it's not going to be what it looks like tomorrow. But, just remembering to focus on today, the right here, the right now, and, giving my best in each and every single moment. So I hope you guys are finding kind of that fine-tuning process that you're able to kind of do the same. So I hope everyone's having a good week so far. So would love to hear some check-ins from you guys. I see a couple of you on here. I can't see who you are, but would love to hear how everyone's doing, how you're hanging in there, maybe a couple bright spots in your week so far. I know we're only halfway through the week, but it's all right. Lots of room for bright spots. So please feel free, if you guys are joining in right now, just to do a quick check-in. So yesterday, we'll kind of jump into the reading a little bit. So yesterday I kind of started reading from Hopeful Healing by Mackenzie Phillips. So this is backwards for me, so I'm not sure if it's backwards for you. I'm curious as to what that looks like. But anyways, so maybe some of you have heard of Mackenzie Phillips before, but just to give you a brief little background, she is an actress. She did grow up on a couple soap operas, actually. And she's also the author of her best-selling memoir called High on Arrival. Mackenzie Phillips brings her knowledge and voice to the subject of recovery for the first time in her memoir. She is the daughter of the founder of the 1960s band The Mamas and the Papas. Mackenzie grew up in a dysfunctional environment and subsequently battled a near-fatal drug addiction. She's now a drug and alcohol counselor and outspoken advocate for addiction awareness and education. She gets real about the hard times of recovery, how to get through them, and the joy of experiencing life clean and sober. So this is a book that someone let me borrow quite a while back, and I kind of pulled it out yesterday and was going through some of the things with you guys. Just to give you a brief little synopsis on what this book is. So this is her second book. I believe this came out in 2017, looks like. So in the preface, Mackenzie says, so each chapter in here is like this short little group of essays that she has kind of put together. So she says, in these essays, I've concentrated on the concepts and feelings that surround the recovery process rather than on the linear story of my life and recovery. I wanted to preserve the conversational foundation of these essays so that they would provide a genuine experience, and hopefully the person reading them would find a friend and some words that are helpful along their own journey. This is a wisdom-based book, not a clinical book. This is also a conversational book. While I do include some basic facts about substance use disorders, I make no claim to be an expert on all things addiction and recovery. I am, however, an expert in my own experiences of those two things, and it is in this that I have found the strongest connection with my clients at the recovery center where I work. So that's just to give you guys a little synopsis on what this book is about. So in her memoir, High on Arrival, that's more about her story and her own life in addiction and some of the traumas that she went through growing up. And each one of these little chapters in here is, right, it's kind of like these short little essays on, concepts and things that she has found that have worked in her own recovery process. And it's kind of interesting because each chapter kind of starts out, kind of generally like how the recovery process would go, kind of starting out with, kind of hope in the beginning and, defining your own addiction and, sorry, I'm trying to flip through these pages here. Like defining addiction and finding its place in your story. So it kind of follows along that pattern of Like the next chapter would be like on choosing recovery and resilience, and it goes on to other chapters of hope and getting through those really difficult times. So yesterday, the reading I did with you guys was all about being mindful. So, and I didn't read the whole chapter. These are a little bit longer of chapters, so I've kind of picked little snippets of pieces that I thought felt important to share. So I'm reading words exactly as Mackenzie writes them in her book. And yesterday we did talk a little bit about, being mindful of the language we use, not only with the way we talk to ourselves in our heads, right? Our own self-talk. I encourage you guys to check in with those. But also encouraging how we talk about, sharing our own stories and, the language that we use when we're describing our addiction. People struggling with substance use disorder and being mindful of those other really stigma words that sometimes we use to describe ourselves or to describe other people who are struggling with substance use or mental health issues or any of those really negative terms we kind of use sometimes. Those can be really detrimental. We talked about that quite a bit yesterday, so I don't want to go into that too much. But again, just being mindful that, going forward to always try and use that, person-centered language, But again, I'm reading it as exactly as she writes it. She often does use words, along the lines of addict or substance abuse. But so kind of changing that in your own minds too, again, to kind of be person-centered. But anyways, so today's little section that I picked out. So this was chapter 4, and chapter 4 is on trusting yourself and on others trusting you. She always starts each chapter with a quote. So this one is from Rumi. The quote is, "Stop acting so small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion." I like that. So again, I kind of cut out a whole bunch of like the beginning of this chapter and kind of getting to the meat of what she's talking about on trust. So I'm going to read a little bit with you guys. Got quite a few people on here. Hi, Mo, Kara, Brian Quinn's on here, Jake's on here. Awesome. Nice to see you guys. Thank you for joining in. So yeah, again, today's reading being a little bit on trust and, just always encouraging you guys to just kind of come in these readings and these discussions and videos that we're doing with an open mind. And please feel free to comment too. I always tell you guys that's my favorite part on here. It kind of helps lead the discussion a little bit, especially when I get stuck. So, all right. So Mackenzie says, "Okay, I just covered a lot of ground there. Trust and lack thereof, hope, the universe, with some surrender to uncertainty thrown in there too, and a lot of leaping toward trust. But it's important leaping. So let's look more at what the trust we're leaping toward looks like. I'll start with trusting the process. To be blunt, everyone who's working with you, who's helping you recover, they know better than you when you first start the recovery process. Hard to believe, right? They even know you better than you. There's an element of trusting the people that went before you, who have lived through what you are living through and trusted the process of recovery. For instance, I know that if I'm actively working on my recovery, I'll stay clean. It's a starting point for my recovery. I make a leap of trust every day, putting my heart into it. You have to be present. Even if you've done it before and you think you know everything about it, you've got to set aside everything you think you know and allow yourself to have a completely new experience. That is a huge exercise in trust. If you have to, close your eyes but still jump toward these people. They're reaching out their arms to grab you, to catch you when you think you're going to fall instead of landing on solid ground. It's okay to be scared. We all are. Now, self-trust, that's a biggie. Allowing yourself to trust yourself is a process like everything else, and it happens really quickly for some people and really slowly for others. But no matter what, it usually starts with others helping you identify good and bad choices when it comes to being around or in situations that aren't safe for where you are in the recovery process. To trust yourself fully, you have to know in your soul that you've altered your negative behaviors into safe and healthy behaviors. This means you have to do the work. Mastering behaviors is all about training and repetition. For instance, create a list of questions you should ask yourself before you decide something. Then go down that list when you need to make a decision, every time. What you are creating is the of here, the known platform, a leap of trust while you leap to faith. Trust happens over time and with consistent actions. This doesn't mean you trust that you will be able to fix everything all of the time. That's not going to happen because you're not perfect, and none of us are. What it's about is trusting in your ability to navigate and manage the bumps in your road. You have that power. One of the bumps you'll hit almost instantly during recovery is others asking, "Can I trust you?" Going back to my early rehab days, I remember thinking, everyone should trust me immediately again because look what I've done. I've gotten sober. Gold stars all around. But I always have to remind myself, and remind my clients too, that you have to earn that trust, and that's okay. There's an acronym that I use during this stage of the process. TIME, or Trust I Must Earn. Trust takes time. You have to earn it back. And so the thought process of, look at me, I'm sober, I made it to 30 days, why are they still looking at me funny? Don't they trust me? Isn't actually serving you well. Look at your track record. It's going to take a lot longer than 30 days. It takes time, and it takes a continuum of behaviors to reestablish trust with yourself and with the people in your life. The people who love you are probably thinking, don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do. Then maybe I'll begin to trust you. You feel pretty smart and capable after a long time being sober, but the truth is that you have to examine your track record, both through your own eyes and through the eyes of the people in your life. Give both yourself and your people the time to establish trust again. Show yourself and them this process toward recovery. Don't just tell. And never discount the value of a second opinion. So this chapter does go on for a little bit longer. And at the end of each one of her chapters, there's a couple little action pieces. So I like the ones I read yesterday. So today's, at the end of this particular chapter, is titled, For God's Sake, Leap! Here are 4 things for your leaping consideration. Leap toward change. Leap into surrender. Leap to trust. And leap to hope. And then there's always kind of a take-home action piece down here. It works if you work it. So, and this is can kind of be a take-home for you guys today too, just some things to think about. Is there any area in your life where you need to take a leap? Instead of focusing on the unknown, take some time to write about what will happen if you don't leap. For example, what would happen if you chose to stay working in an unhealthy environment instead of finding a new job or going back to school? Is the unknown really worse than the known? Now write about all the potential good that could come from your leap. There's no guarantee of those good outcomes, but there is a guarantee of the negative ones that will happen if you stay put, without making any changes for the better. Either way, you'll have to leap. So this was really, I mean, all these chapters in here are really great. This is an amazing book, and I strongly recommend it. It's kind of cool because Mackenzie puts a little bit of her story in there, but it's more so focusing on like the recovery process and, you know, what that kind of looks like. And again, she's just sharing her own experience, strength, and hope, and, you know, not on here as a professional by any means, but again, just sharing her experience. And, you know, I'm on here to do the same. You know, I don't claim to know everything about recovery. The only thing that I know is my own story and my own journey. And, you know, I'm an expert in my own story, in the fact that, you know, I'm figuring out what has worked over the years, and even today, you know, still figuring that out every single day, right? Always figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And that's a process for all of us. So, but this one I just really enjoyed today, about, you know, trust and the lack thereof sometimes we have, you know, trusting the process. You know, that's kind of where she started in this chapter, and that's always a really difficult thing, right, for us to trust the process, especially now. You know, it's just, there's so much unknown for us, you know, and this is something that we talk about almost incessantly lately, but there is so much unknown right now, and it's very hard for us to trust in something that we can't see, because there are no answers right now. There are no firm answers. Excuse me. So you know, trusting in this thing that I have no idea what the outcome is going to be. Like, how scary is that, right? So we're all kind of struggling through that right now. But, you know, trusting the process is something that, like anything else, takes work. And, you know, she kind of says, it's a starting point for my recovery. I make a leap of trust every day, putting my heart into it. Right? So it's kind of along those lines of like the fake it till you make it when we talk about that. Like, you know, just trusting anyways, whether I can see the outcome coming at me or not, you know, just doing it anyways, and kind of breaking down that fear. And I believe that that's where faith kind of comes in, faith and, having that blind trust, so to speak. But also talking about like trusting the people that come before me, and those people certainly aren't experts either, but they're an expert in their own recovery. So when I kind of first came into, my own recovery, like I had to let go of everything that I thought I knew. I had to, as she says, you've got to set aside everything you think you know and allow yourself to have a completely new experience, right? And that's what I had to do kind of coming into my own recovery. I had to let go of everything I thought that I knew about anything. And I had to be open to a new experience. And that definitely took a while. But I just started meeting people that, obviously had came before me, and it took some time. But eventually, I slowly but surely started to take those suggestions that people gave to me, because they did have more experience than I did. They had done this thing longer than I had, so that's all the more experience they have than I do. And that is a huge exercise in trust. So if she says, if you have to, close your eyes, but still jump toward these people. And that's why we're always, encouraging you guys to jump out and take that leap of faith and trust us and reach out if you're struggling. We're here. We're here to grab you and catch you when you think you're going to fall. And, it's just so important to really just keep those connections going. And it's a big practice, right? It's a big exercise in trust. And it's not easy, especially like trusting people that we don't know, or, well, who are these people? Why am I going to trust them? But you don't know until you do it. You don't know until you're in the situation. And I found in my own experience that the more I just let go and started trusting the people that came before me and were trying to guide me and that reached their hand out to me, the more I just let go and started trusting those people, the more my recovery process and my journey really just started to take off. And things did start to get better. And I'm not saying that every day was great, so every day is still not great. We all know that. We all have good days and we all have bad days. Any one of us humans. But just trusting anyways. And then she kind of goes into this other process of self-trust. That's a biggie. Allowing yourself to trust yourself is a process like anything else. And it happens really quickly for some people and really slowly for others. Slowly, right here. It's definitely been a slow, painful process. But that was due to me hanging on so tight and not letting go and being able to trust other people, not being able to trust myself, not being able to trust the process. I was still clinging on to all my old ways and thinking that I knew the answers and knew what was best for me, but I didn't, So I've definitely had a slow learning process, but that's okay, She says, no matter what, it usually starts with others helping you identify good and bad choices when it comes to being around or in situations that aren't safe for you, where you are in the recovery process. And she talks about trusting yourself fully. You have to know in your soul that you've altered your negative behaviors into safe and healthy behaviors. That means you have to do the work. And that even learning to trust, and I see Kathy on here is commenting, leap into surrender. I love that. Even learning to surrender, like that's a process. That's putting in the work. That's taking action. And I don't do it well every single day. I'm sure we can all relate to that, but I do my best. I try, and slowly but surely things have just started to kind of line up and start working, and that internal growth has started to happen. I love that she points out, like, we have to trust in ourselves and know in our soul that when we're in this process of recovery and we're putting in the work, I have to know and trust myself deep down that I'm doing the best that I can to change my negative behaviors into safe and healthy new behaviors. I have to trust in that I'm doing that. And that can be scary sometimes, right? When for any of us humans, like we've lived our lives like one way for a really long time, doing the same things, whether they worked or not. And so to completely trust and surrender and let go and to try something completely new and different, like it's uncharted waters. It's scary. But just trusting and doing it anyways, And if you're having a hard time with that, like, can you reach out and talk to other people? Say, like, I want to trust, I want to surrender, I want to change these negative, unhealthy behaviors, but how do I do that? Where do I begin? I don't know that I can let go. So if you're in that mental spot, can you reach out? Can you talk to your support network? If you feel like you don't have a support network, can you reach out to us? Like, we're here, like, we can talk you through that stuff. We'll be here just to listen to you guys. So she goes on to say, like, hitting those bumps in the road. This doesn't mean you trust that you will be able to fix everything all the time. That's not going to happen because you're not perfect, and none of us are. What it's about is trusting in your ability to navigate and manage the bumps in your road. You have that power. And I just love that part of that too, just remembering that, I do have that ability. I am going to have bumps in the road. You're going to have bumps in the road. Every single one of us humans, like, that is just kind of how life works, right? We get things that happen in life, everyone's got their own baggage, right? Everyone's got their own story. Everyone's got something really difficult or multiple things that they've been through. And that's life, But that recovery process is learning to navigate through those bumps when they do come up, the bumps in the road, But oftentimes that I found, like, all the bumps in the road that I have hit in the past couple years, I've needed the help of other people to make it through those things. I had to learn to let go. So that's why I love at the end of this chapter, the 4 things that are to consider. So I'm going to read those again. This is all about leaping and taking that leap of faith, trusting, right? So she says, leap toward change, leap into surrender, leap to trust, and leap to hope. So those are just some really important things to remember. And, I love that, Kathy wrote it in the comments here too, but leap into surrender. I think that's one that really pops out for me. And a lot of people ask, what does surrendering look like? It looks different for each and every one of us. Again, I'm not claiming to be an expert on that, but in my own experience of leaping into surrender, again, I had to let go of everything that I thought I knew before coming into recovery and let other people guide me. I had to surrender, trying to take control of everything, trying to overthink everything. And those are things I still struggle with today, absolutely. I'm very much an overthinker, and some of you who know me well can attest to that. But it's a practice, right? It's an everyday practice. Surrendering, leaping toward change, leaping toward trust, leaping to hope, and hanging on to hope, So one of her acronyms that she used for this stage of the process that people in is the word time. Time. Trust I must earn. Trust takes time. And then there's that other annoying saying, time takes time, but it's true, So if we can just be patient and hang on, and reach out to others and let other people guide us and be there to support us, we can make it through day by day, hour by hour. We're all doing it right now. So that's kind of my take home for you guys today. And is where she writes, it works if you work it. So she's asking you to take a look. Is there any areas in your life right now where you feel like you need to take a leap? Whether that's a leap toward change, leap into surrender, leap to trust, leap to hope. So really, again, just kind of driving home that self-awareness, those self-check-ins I always talk about with you guys. Take a look at that. Are there areas in your life where you need to take a leap? And that will look different for every single one of us. Instead of focusing on the unknown, take some time to write about what will happen if you don't leap. What will happen if we stay stuck in those same places? Maybe there's this like internal want to like, whatever it is. I mean, it can literally be anything. There's that internal want to get up and to make changes toward healthy behavior, to do things differently, to want to change jobs, to want to go back to school, to, want to learn a craft or a trade or whatever it is. Sometimes we have that internal desire to do something, right? And what do we let stop us? Fear is often the number one offender with that, right? So take a look at that. So instead of focusing on the unknown, if I whatever the example is. So her example of is, if you choose to stay working in an unhealthy environment instead of finding a new job or going back to school. So instead of focusing on all those unknowns, like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen? Like if I took that new job or if I went to school, like what would life look like? It's scary. I don't know. Instead of focusing on those unknowns, focus on what's going to happen if you don't take that leap. Right? What will you gain by not taking a leap of faith? Or what will you not gain? So really just kind of taking that look really deeply into yourself and just writing about it. And then she also goes into, Now write about all the potential good that could come from your leap. You know, instead of focusing on all the bad things, like, oh, if I changed jobs, if I went back to school, there's, you know, this horrible thing would happen and this horrible thing would happen. Like, instead of focusing on all the negatives, like, focus on all the good that could come from that. What good would bring me if I changed careers and if I went back to school, or whatever it is that you're struggling with. You know, focus on the positive outcomes. Think of all the benefits that could come along the way if you just let go and take the leap, right? Trust that other people are going to be there to guide you. So anyways, that's what I kind of want to leave you guys with today. I do want to check in with the comments. Hi, Holly. Hey, Stacy. Holly says, I am totally dealing with the whole trust thing right now. Yeah. I missed the title of the book. So I'll post that. So the title of the book is called Hopeful Healing by Mackenzie Phillips. So if you guys give me a moment, I will post that into the comments in just a few moments here. Stacy says, I am missing some friends that didn't trust the process, I guess. It makes me sad that they couldn't trust or give themselves a real shot at a whole new way. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think about that too sometimes, Stacy, and thank you for bringing that up. You know, I have an exact situation, exact person that immediately pops into my head as soon as I read that. Someone who was really struggling, and, you know, someone who also couldn't and wouldn't trust the process, didn't give themselves a chance, and, you know, just didn't come back from that. So I'm right there with you, Stacy. It's really hard and sad to watch, you know, some of our friends or loved ones who are really struggling with trusting that process and go back to all the unhealthy behaviors they were doing before, whatever that looks like. You know, it's hard, right? This is difficult. This is tough stuff. You know, it's not easy. And you know what? No one ever said it's going to be easy, but I found in my own experience that when we stick together, that, you know, it does get a little bit easier and it's a little bit more manageable, right? Stacy also says, I recently just made a huge leap out of dentistry, which was everything I have known since 2007, but I'm going to be a full-time student in May for OTA. That is awesome. Congratulations. That's exciting. So yeah, and that's so great. You know what I mean? Like, something that you've done for so long, since 2007, right? You know, I think about that with past jobs that I stayed stuck in for years and I hated those jobs. But what it finally changed in my life once I did take that leap of faith, you know, I had always had that thought of like, oh, I wish I made that change sooner. My goodness, look how much better my life got. And that isn't always the case, but, you know, new opportunities and going back to school or getting new jobs, you know, that can be really exciting stuff. So I'm happy for you. That's awesome. Getting comfortable in the uncomfortability. Yes, that is absolutely hard, right? But that's where we grow. You know, we grow in those uncomfortable moments. We grow through the pain. You know, and staying comfortable, you know, it's not always a negative thing, but when we start staying complacent and we know that we need to make a change and we're not doing it, I don't know about you guys if you've ever been in that situation, but it really starts to eat at you. It always has at me anyway. It's like when I knew I was stuck in a crappy situation or a crappy job in the past, and like I felt this thing deep down, right? I felt like this want to take that change, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And I stayed stuck and I didn't grow there, you know? Where I grew was doing the uncomfortable thing by getting up and making that change, you know? Hi, Karen. Stacy says, my environment was super unhealthy and it pushed me to do what I've always wanted to do. Yeah, absolutely. Kathy's on here. Great thing to write about. Yeah, so, and it's just recognizing that too. You know, sometimes recognizing that our environment is super unhealthy, or the people that we're surrounding ourselves with are unhealthy for us and the things that we want and the things that we are trying to achieve in our life, right? Sometimes people, and it's not meant to bash other people, but sometimes there are those other people or those environments that really just suck all the good energy out of us, right? I'm sure we can all think of people in our lives that have done that before or still do that. And it kind of stops us, you know, but having that self-awareness to recognize that environment is unhealthy, and you know, that can kind of be this thing that kind of propels us and pushes us forward to make those changes sometimes. Absolutely. So you guys are writing in a lot of really great things here. And again, I always appreciate you guys showing up. It really means a lot to me. And yeah, it was just a really, really great reading about trust today. And, you know, so that's my take home for you guys is, to, again, just to kind of look within yourselves and ask, are there any areas right now where you feel like you need to take a leap? You know, leaping towards change, leaping into surrender, leaping into trust, you know, and what does that look like? What does it look like if you don't make that change, you know, or what could the positive outcomes be if you do make that change? You know, think through some of that stuff, write that stuff down, process it with yourself, process it with another human, process it with me, whatever. You guys can always reach out. So once again, I'm doing this from my phone, and I did not post all the information that I was planning on posting, but if you guys are needing support, or if you have friends or family that are also in need of support right now and could benefit from working with one of our amazing peers at Recovery Fitness, please reach out and we will get you hooked up with one of us. We're here for you. You know, you guys don't have to do this thing alone. So if that's one of those things that you feel like you need to leap into today, maybe take that leap of faith. Trust, you know, trust that there are people here who are reaching their hands out. You know, you just gotta reach up and take that hand, you know, trust that people who have come before you can help you and share their own experience and kind of guide you through this and just be there as another human, right? Because it kind of sucks to do things by ourselves sometimes. So again, we're absolutely here for you guys every day. I will always remind you of that. And if you need to get connected, you guys can either, I'm hoping Kara's on here. I'm hoping Kara will save the day on me again and post our new peer phone number. But you guys can always Facebook message us. You can email us. If you missed these videos, if you came in late, if you want to rewatch it, the videos do automatically save, so you can go back on our Recovery Fitness Facebook page and view this video. You can also check out our new YouTube channel, because that's awesome. That's exciting. So yeah, anyways, we're here for you guys. Reach out, get connected any way that you can. I hope you all have an awesome day, and yeah, I will talk to you all tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Oh, I don't know how to end these. Bye.